Hi everyone, I'm Tally, this is Farrell and we are bored of it, and welcome to our review of Expeditions, a game that is the sequel to what is famously our favourite game, which is Scythe. For 1 to 5 players, Expeditions, like Scythe, is at its core an engine building game. However, here it's primarily card driven with some exploration thrown in.
Expeditions is set about a couple of years after Scythe. And in this game, you are going to be on an expedition to Siberia to try and discover what happened to a previous expedition that went lost, searching for a big meteorite which crashed. And spoilers, things are going to get really dark and weird. Now, before we get into how to play and what we think, please know that this game was a review copy provided by the publisher, Stone Meyer Games.
So, as we stated, Expeditions is pretty card driven. Even your character and their companion are cards. You do still get a big mech though, which is nice. Each mech comes with their own player board and special ability, which differentiates it from the others. The mech though is mainly just a way of keeping track of where you are on the map, which is made up of hexagonal tiles. At the start of the game, only some of the tiles are face up and revealed, and by moving around the map and landing on the face down ones, you can flip them to reveal them. When they're flipped, they are full of corruption, which the players need to remove in order to uncover the hidden action below, making that location more useful.
In Expeditions, it's easy to select actions on your turn because there are only 3 potential options: move, gather, or play a card. Move will allow you to move your mech on the map 1 to 3 spaces away to another location. Gather will allow you to gain the resources or do the action pre-printed on the location where you are. And play a card will allow you to play a card. Usually you're going to want to play a card in combination with a matching worker, because that will trigger the kind of pre-written action on the card and allow you to do that. Although you could play the card without a worker, but in that case you would only get the resources shown in the top left, which you get in either case. Finally, you could, on your turn, not take an action at all, and you can have a refresh turn, which allows you to take back all of your played cards and workers so you can go again.
As a big picture view, you're going to be moving around the map, gathering cards, resources and workers, so you can remove corruption and play cards. However, once your engine is good enough, you'll start permanently dismantling it by attaching cards to your player board. This is because the game ends when a player has 4 achievements, many of which revolve around adding 4 of a certain type of card to your player board. Other achievements involve having a minimum number of workers, cards, corruption, etc.
Unlike Scythe, if you've played that, you don't just passively get to place a star when you meet the conditions of the achievements. You have to actively boast, which can be found on cards or certain location spaces. And in that manner, you can then place your stars if you meet the conditions, 1 per time you boast. Now, at the end of the game, you're going to count up all of your money, and whoever has the most money wins. So you're going to have some money from actions in-game, usually, and then you'll also add to it money pre-printed on item cards that you've fused to your board. You'll get some money per achievement you've done, which is multiplied by each quest you have fused to your board. And finally, you'll get some money per corruption token you have. It was a really bold move naming Expeditions a direct sequel to Scythe, because generally when you hear the word sequel, you're thinking of something very much based upon the original, but that expands it, re-implements it, or just makes it bigger. And that's going to be something that's tricky for people to navigate, because Expeditions in many ways is a quite different game than Scythe, and is arguably for different people and different gaming groups. Even though this box is big, like Scythe was, it's actually a much smaller game in both scope and feel.
You have this quite big map, the giant mechs, but it is all for show. Almost all of the game is via the cards that you gather in play, and in another world, this could be entirely a card game. As such though, this is one of the main strengths of Expeditions, the diversity of the cards, as you have this big deck full of unique cards. And this makes each game and each engine you build feel pretty different, Not to mention, it's delightfully fun to try and figure out different combos and ways of using them.
The cards also provide the juiciest decision in expeditions: when to fuse a card to your player board. The actions on the cards can be so valuable to your strategy, but fusing them to your board goes a long way towards helping your endgame score. Once fused, you can't use them for their actions anymore, so it's crucial that you correctly time this switch, and this decision provides so much crunch to the game. It's further supplemented by each type of card having a different benefit, making it very tough to decide what to go for when, and being a great gamer moment. A negative side of being card-based and having such a diversity of cards is that not all cards are created equal. Some are just better and more useful than others, and this is in particular shown when the cards allow you to do what I'm going to call bottom row actions. And that's a Scythe term. And what I mean here is actions which either let you remove corruption or fuse cards to your player board. Things that get you towards getting achievements and ending the game and scoring points. Every corruption you get is some money. Every achievement you get is some money. Fusing cards to your boards is powerful and lets you do things and claim money in game. So if you have cards that can do that, you have a marked advantage. And if you get them, can be luck of the draw, or there can maybe only be one available, and whoever's first in turn already gets it. So it's not that controllable. And while the game does make admirable efforts to give players more choice in what cards they can take, you have this 5-card marketplace, and there's spaces which let you kind of remove any cards you want and refill it. This is an efficiency game, and having to dance about trying to get the right card while another player has it fall into their lap as they draw randomly, it's not going to help you win.
Whilst we're on efficiency, this is where Expeditions is most like Scythe. You have to get into a rhythm with your actions because you can't take the same ones turn to turn. On your turn, you'll generally take 2 actions, which is determined by covering up the third. But because you always have to move that action cube to cover up a new action every turn, you really have to plan ahead to make sure you're in the right place at the right time. It creates a really pleasing puzzle of timing, and getting it right several turns in a row provides that same buzz as Scythe does when you nail your top and bottom row actions back to back. This also provides a lot of interesting decision space in relation to card play and refresh turns. Gained cards go straight onto the played side of your player board, so you've got to balance gaining cards, playing cards, and getting them all back. It's another devilish puzzle because a refresh turn is in many ways a lost turn in a game about efficiency. But it also lets you take all 3 actions on your next turn, which if utilised correctly could be big.
Generally, the biggest barrier to your successful efficiency will be the other players. And that is because other players can block spaces where you need to go. Also, they could maybe take a card you want, but aside from that, there's no interaction in Expeditions. Now, what this means is that at higher player counts, Expeditions is a little bit more of an exercise in frustration than fun, because the map size stays the same no matter the player count. So there are more blocked spaces with more players, there are less options, and there is more downtime, and you're not getting anything more out of the experience. So this is a game that we, and pretty much all of Board Game Geek, recommend to mainly play at 2 to 3 players, where you have a much better, snappier, more pleasant experience.
We think the most important thing to stress is you shouldn't go for this just because you like Scythe or vice versa, because despite it being a sequel, it is a pretty different game, even if you get the same core feeling. We did love, though, diving back into the world of Scythe, as it has top-notch artwork and theming. We also love how weird and haunting it is, and the fact that the further in the map you go, the more dangerous things get. However, we'd play this with a completely different group of people than we'd play Scythe with. It has a lower scope, is more inward-facing, and for us, it just didn't shine in quite the same way.
Our biggest issue, and the thing we can't quite get away from, is the randomness. Because there are so many different forms of input randomness, we haven't been able to shake the feeling that the winner of a game has been all too often decided by what cards, locations, or corruptions they've stumbled upon. What actions the cards let you do can make a crucial difference, but just as important is a little bit of luck of what tile you flip or what corruption you draw out of the bag. Does that tile have the action you're looking for? Is it corruption you can instantly clear? These can be the bite points that make the difference between winning and losing.
So, final thoughts. Expeditions is a bit of a tough one for us because whilst we have every reason to love it, it just didn't quite land for us. There's nothing overtly wrong with it, but there's just maybe too many small things that add up. Some of them are surface level, for example, the box being unnecessarily big and weirdly shaped, to more severe things like the feeling that not every game is won on skill and having to avoid specific player counts.
However, that's not to say that it's a game we don't like. We enjoyed playing it. We had a lot of fun. We're going to go back to it. And for some people, they're going to enjoy this. It's a great efficiency puzzle. You have interesting decisions, has a really nice rhythm and kind of rapid back and forth gameplay if you're playing with 2 or 3 players. So there's a lot to like. It's just that there are other games that we prefer that do similar things. I think that's the bottom line for us. So that was our review of Expeditions. If it was helpful, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions, please ask them down below. And you could also consider following us on Instagram and Threads, where we post more bite-sized, up-to-date stuff about what we're playing currently. It keeps you more in the know. But thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.